to Breaking Black Podcast. I have a new guest host. This is Fancy Arlee. Say hello to the audience, Fancy.
Hey everyone, thank you so much, Tina, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Although Fancy is new to Breaking Black Podcast, she and I have actually worked together in the past. So it's a pleasure to have you on the show. I know we have some pretty exciting topics that we're going to be talking about today. Do you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you so much, Tina, again for having me. So again, my name is Fancy. I am a Bay Area girl, but I am a Cali girl stuck in a Georgia world. So came here to Atlanta to plant some roots and bought a home, so I guess I'm staying. So I'm just trying to pave the way and break some ground here in Georgia and see what we come up with.
I love it. We got a regular Georgia peach on our show.
Give me that peach. I got it.
So one of the topics that we wanted to get into today was whether or not we feel that your spouse or your partner can actually be your best friend.
In my opinion, I honestly think that they can. But this subject is one for me that's very interesting because although I love my wife, I do have a best friend. We grew up from like 12 and 13, right? So when I hear the word best friend, that's someone who you tell your deepest, darkest to, you take it to the grave and things of that nature. But when you get married, right, some people get offended when you say, or I'm marrying my best friend. Well, we're not best friends. They get offended. And I think that's so weird because just like the whole soulmate, twin flame and things like that, I feel like we can have multiple. So it's okay to not have your spouse be your, what we consider a best friend, right? Because I have one already. So, but with my wife, she doesn't get offended. She definitely knows her place in my heart, but she also knows that my best friend is my best friend, So I don't feel like, I don't get offended when I hear, oh, you're not my best friend, because it's okay to have one, right? But at the same time, my wife is my best friend in the way that I'm choosing to share my life with you. I do tell her things. I might say them a little different. I might deliver them a little different than I would my best friend, right? I'm I'm not going to say that to my wife, but in the sense of being a best friend, I guess you can say that I'm okay with that. But being married, it's okay to have your own identity. Right. So that's what it kind of boils down to. And I wouldn't get offended if my wife went out and got a best friend. I would appreciate that, because that means that would take a little load off of me. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. What about you? How do you feel about that?
It's always been an interesting kind of topic for me. I think because I've actually always had, for the majority of my life, like two male best friends, two best friends of the opposite sex. And so when I'm dating or I'm in a relationship with someone, I've always seen kind of how my relationships with my, two male best friends would always sort of kind of be a contention in my relationship. I think to a certain extent, now that I'm looking back at it, it may have actually prevented a healthy relationship. But I also feel like since I, would always have sort of like these two male best friends that I would kind of rely on in those spaces, I always felt like whenever I had a partner, it was like a completely different space for my partner. And I think I depended on my friendships a little bit more often for those particular types of, conversations and things of that nature. I think looking back at it now that I've gotten older, I feel like in terms of a relationship, I do think it's important to have a partner that you do have a really good relationship, a good friendship with. And I think ultimately, sometimes that underlying friendship that you have with your spouse or partner can kind of be that saving grace when you're going through like difficult points in the relationship. It's sort of what you can lean on and rely on and kind of bring you back and remind you of why, you enjoy being with this person, even outside of the romance in the relationship. How do you feel? Do you, in terms of like, in meeting your wife and, getting married and things like that, were you guys like friends first? Did you was it just like strictly that you guys were dating and, got in your relationship? Like, how did that come about?
That's funny that you asked that because um when I moved here, right, it was I worked at a job, a physical location. I've been working, from home for years, but when I first moved here, I was at a physical location. With that, I met a group of friends and things like that. But wasn't looking for anything romantic because I had kind of just come out of something, not kind of. I came out of something serious, right? So when we met, it was kind of one of those things where like I genuinely don't have too many friends here. I can count on like two fingers how many friends I have here in Georgia. So when I have like a joke where I tell people, I'm like, the first friend that I met, I married. You know what I mean? So we I genuinely was looking for people to hang out with and kind of get to know and kind of start building my village here, right? Because I didn't know too many people here. So when we met, in my mind, I was meeting someone that I can be friends with, right? So it's just kind of ironic that we're talking about that and that you asked me that because I genuinely was looking to build a friendship, and it turned into marry me. And so, I mean, of course, over time, but it was, and even still after all these years, we do get butterflies and stuff like that. And just kind of backtracking a little bit, now that I think about it, I do talk to her kind of like she's my girlfriend in a sense, or a girl, or guess, so it's like the best of both worlds for me. And I know that sounds cliche in the same sex relationship, but I really don't like her painting my toes, but she loves it. So I try. I'm like, so we do girlfriend things, right? Something that me and my best friend would do if we were in the same city. So I mean, I guess. But yeah, I genuinely was looking for a friendship and found love. So, but yeah, that, like you said, it is good to know that foundation was built on that genuine friendship. Um, but kind of, I want to go back to something that you had said. You said you have the two male best friends, right, that you grew up with. And you said that it kind of was something not necessarily was a hindrance, but do you think that it was because there were males? Do you think that if there were females, that it probably would have lended a different outcome in way of maybe feels on either side? Do you think that played a part in that dynamic?
Yeah, I definitely do. I had a female best friend like in my teenage years, even in my adolescent years. And I never got the reception, from having a female best friend that I got from having two really close male best friends. And I mean, we were really, really friends for a really, really long time. Our friendships lasted over, 2 decades, close to 2 decades in one, and over 2 decades with the other. But I noticed in like each relationship that I've had, there has always been sort of a contention with that, especially like, on days where, like, say if I'm celebrating like my birthday or I'm celebrating Mother's Day and my best friend, bringing me flowers or things of that nature. If my friends known me for 20 years, they're going to know my favorite flowers. They're going to know my favorite scent. They're going to know my favorite color, all the things that I like. And so I would always find that sort of if my best friends would show up in those spaces and kind of do something special for me, like throw me a birthday party or send flowers to my home on Mother's Day or something of that nature, my relationship partner would kind of always have like deeper concerns, which for me was, I always had some difficulty with that because I felt like I understand what friendship is. And there's a difference between having a romantic interest in somebody versus, having somebody that you really consider to be like your friend or your brother or sister. And at the end of the day, I cherish my friendships. And so there were things that I really valued about having male best friends where they could give me the male perspective, tell me different things from the male, point of view. It was kind of allowed me to be like a little bit more well-rounded in terms of like those things, because I don't have any brothers, no older or younger brothers. I didn't grow up in a space where I could, benefit from learning something like that from them. And so it was kind of fun to have those, relationships. And then sometimes with women, there can be like a cattiness there. And when you have a male best friend, I feel like it kind of eliminates some of those types of, spaces. So Yeah, I definitely could see looking back at it where, there were kind of like some insecurities in my relationships in terms of me being so close with like two members of the opposite sex. And but I wasn't really willing to give it up then. And honestly, I feel like if I ran into that situation today, I respect my partner, but I also feel like I have a right to choose for myself. And I don't think that they should, dictate who I could or couldn't be friends with, I think. What are your thoughts? Like, could you see a similar situation? I mean, you are married and you met your wife, kind of come into it as friends and looking for friendship and things of that nature. But I know that you probably still have a ton of girlfriends and things like that you hang out with. Like, do you feel that there's any, differences with having to navigate sort of like your girlfriend spaces, versus looking at kind of having that deeper respect or setting that boundary in terms of relationships?
Again, that question, it's like you're hitting all those spots, right? So recently, right? So I just started spreading my friendship wings, right? And so I've always been a social person, right? So back home I was social. I never really had like a particular group of girlfriends, right? Where we all grew up together and we'd hang out and go. I've never had that. So I've always had individual like friends that would kind of meet each other when it was like my birthday or something like that. But never had like a solid group of friends because I have like such a, a broad way in which I think of friendship, right? So they're not all one type of woman, right? If that makes sense. So with that being said, I just started recently, trying to spread my wings here in Georgia and network and meet some friends and things like that. And so I think that it's funny to me because I just had this conversation last night with a friend of mine who I recently met, and she's my daughter's friend's mom. We instantly hit it off. And so I love her already. I think she's an awesome person. She's really dope. And so women will typically ask me, well, is your wife okay with us being friends and things of that nature? And I think it's hilarious because I'm like, why would she? I mean, I get why people ask that, right? But I mean, to me, just like how you said with having male friends, it's like, what are you expecting out of this? It's either we're solid or we're not. You know what I mean? And I'm very solid in my marriage. We're solid, like we're good. We've never had, I'm not the type to go through your phone and be all weird and stuff because we had that friendship first and we know that we're good, right? And I think that might too come with age. But I think, and even meeting the friends that I meet and things like that, they ask, and in a sense, it is, don't you think? It's almost like you're dating again, right? So even though you're not dating women, you can probably still relate. Like meeting new friends is literally like dating, and so you want to shoot your shot. So when they ask me that, I just laugh and I say, "Well, what does your wife think?" I'm like, she thinks it's cool. I mean, we're not sleeping together. She thinks that it's cool that I'm actually meeting friends and getting to kind of come into my own here in Georgia. So no, but I think that's very interesting. But like I said, even though you don't date women, don't you think that it's kind of like, oh my God, let me shoot my shot. I have a best friend, but I want more best friends. The older I get, me and my best friend, we don't get jealous, right? So she has multiple best friends and I have friends. So we don't get all weird. So, but when it comes to like my spouse, and having the friendships, I think that it kind of is, like I said, that it feels like I'm dating again, but without the love interest part as far as like the physical, because I love everyone, but just trying to navigate that is just funny because I think that it's going to come up a lot because it's come up. What does your wife think of us being friends? Let's ask her. I don't know, you know what I mean? Because I can't speak for somebody, but again, we're solid. So, just trying to figure out where people fit in my life and if they fit in my life is a thing that, and I, again, going back to the best friend, I talk to my wife about everything. There's not, there might be one or two things that she doesn't know in comparison to what my best friend might know, right? But she still knows so much about me that I feel comfortable telling her everything, right? So there's nothing that I have to hide. So what about you? Do you feel like that it's like more of like a dating thing? And then how does that fit in a dynamic as far as a relationship would go?
That's an interesting way to look at it. I mean, I definitely don't ascribe to the no new friends. Like I feel like when I meet people, I'm totally open to building new friendships. And I think one of the reasons why I'm so open to that is because I think in the past I've had to like let go of a lot of friendships that I feel like weren't ultimately kind of serving like the purpose that I had or where I saw myself going. And I consider myself to be a pretty positive and like upbeat person, and sometimes you can have certain energies around you that like I don't know, they either weigh you down or they don't know how to be happy for you, or they don't know how to celebrate you in your wins. And I feel like that's kind of opened me up to a space of just like a whole new world of entertaining like new friends, new spaces. But I do feel like I'm always like interrogated. I feel like it's the opposite for me. It's like I'm not the one asking all the questions. It seems like whenever I meet new people, they're always kind of like interrogating me. They want to know like what type of friend I am, and like what I'm looking for in terms of making connections with people and things of that nature, which is so funny to me because I usually approach friendships with like the most genuine place and the most genuine space. Like I'm really rooting for people. I really do care about women. I care about women and female empowerment. Like, and I champion my friends and I want to see them win. So I'm always coming in with like really pure intentions and genuine intentions. But most of the people that I meet, they usually don't trust that, which I think is indicative of like, the society that we're in and probably what's been happening in their friendships, beforehand, as to why they don't trust that somebody could just be coming in with like real, true, genuine intentions. But yeah, it is kind of like an interviewing process, to kind of see who gels with you, who gels with your personality, who gels with your line of work, who gels with your, your morals and your values and all those different types of things. And, with you being married, I'm sure considering, how that gels and ties into your relationship with your partner is probably a really huge, part of that, as it would be, for any relationship that I would be in. But I think like I'm in this season of like, let's just see what happens. I think I'm in the season of letting go opposed to control. And I'm just kind of like, let's see what life is going to open me up to without like any pretenses as to what that's going to be. And I feel like that's kind of opening me up to like meeting new people and being new environments. How's it for you? Like coming from California, going over to Georgia. I know you talked about that, but it also gives you the space to like open up to a whole new network of, people that you might not have been exposed to. Like, have you gotten into like any of the, Georgia scene, any of the nightlife, anything like that, just to meet people?
Well, first of all, I love that for you. Being open and things of that nature is something, because having control is something that I've always struggled with too, or the lack thereof, right? So not having control. So I love that for you. And that's kind of where I've been the past couple of years, is being open to those things. But to answer your question, no, I haven't. And I think life has happened to me, in more ways than one. And so I think that just even with the friendships and dating or whatever have you, we have to want to make time for the things that we want to make time for, right? So I think that the way that life was lifing for me, it didn't afford me the time to get out and, because Atlanta's known for strip clubs and wings, okay? And so I really didn't. I never made it to the strip club, but we have wings on every corner, right? But maybe one day, I'll be able to get into that scene. But I have been able to network with some people who, know some people. So pretty soon here, I'll be able to hobnob and bump some elbows with some people who know some people. You know what I mean? But yeah, I am excited about the friendships that I am kind of forming right now. So I'll say, just like I would say if I were dating, and like you said, let's see what happens.
I think that's an awesome, space to be in. I think it's a great attitude to have. I mean, you're like, I don't know. I love the space of Georgia where you can just come out there and like kind of have something to do all the time and things of that nature. I do travel there pretty often. I have a lot of family that lives in Georgia. Shout out to my family in Georgia, because I know y'all gonna be tuning in now that I got me a Georgia Pete on the show. Shout out to Georgia. But yeah, I mean, I love the beautiful landscaping there. I definitely feel like there's sort of like a lot of different things to do out there. I love, you know, being around our brothers and sisters out there and being immersed kind of in, you know, just a space where we are, you know, running businesses and getting that higher education and having a lot of, I feel like California has definitely been a space that has struggled in the in terms of seeing people of color really thriving in all professions and in, you know, all lines of business. And I love that, you know, I get to chat with you, but you're in a space where, you know, Black people out there, you know, they're owning property out there, running businesses out there, they're walking into entrepreneurship out there, pursuing higher education, and there's sort of like a community amongst people of color where, you know, they're kind of tying in with each other and learning how to network with each other and build and grow. And that is the space that I'm like really passionate about.